Hi everyone, we are going to learn about the various topics in first unit entrepreneurship, namely incorporation of business and advantages and disadvantages of incorporation of business, forms of business organizations, that is different or various forms of business organizations, role of entrepreneurship in economic development, and startups. So startups also include of the various benefits provided by the government to the startups are discussed in these topics. The first topic is incorporation of business. Here incorporation describes the process of creating a new business structure where that business becomes a recognized entity or person under the law. Once created, this new law entity can be treated separately from its founders or shareholders. Incorporation involves legal documents called articles of incorporation that list the primary purpose of the business, its name and its location, and the number of shares and class of stock being issued. If any, incorporation also involved jurisdiction, special registration information, and fees. Companies are owned by their shareholders. Small companies can be simple held by the single shareholder, where very large and often publicly traded companies can be have several thousand shareholders. As a rule, the shareholders are only responsible for the payment of their own shares. As owners, the shareholders are entitled to receive the profits of the company unless in the form of dividends. The shareholders are also the directors of the company. The directors of the company are responsible for the day-to-day activities of the company. They owe a duty of care to the company and must act in its best interest. They are usually elected annually. Small companies can have a single director, while larger ones have a board comprised of more directors. And the advantages of incorporation are discussed below. First one is protection of personal assets. Here, except in case of fraud or in some specific tax statutes, the directors do not have personal liability for the company's debt. That means the company is responsible for its own debts only when in the case of any personal frauds only the personal assets of the directors are being acted as liabilities for the company. And next one is transferable ownership. As the company is been incorporated, the transfer of ownership will be easy if the company have faced any financial crisis or any insolvencies in its future. The government can take over the company and or transfer the management or the operations of the company to the another management very easily if it has been incorporated. And the next one is less taxes. When compared to the individuals, the incorporated company's tax will be less. And increased durability. The durability or the life of the incorporated company will be very high because it should not produce the insolvency for the small or minor issues related to the operations or the losses. And the next one is it will have separate credit rating regarding of owner's personal score. Credit rating is related to the CIBIL. Here the individuals and the incorporations or the company will have the separate CIBIL scoring which help the credit rating and provide the loans for the incorporated companies separately. And the last one is easy to create retirement plans. As an individual in the proprietary who is not incorporated can run his business as long as he has a chance or ability to run it. But in case of incorporated committees, according to the governments, the retirement of a particular directors or the chairman should be, and they are to be elected at each and every age limit. So easy to create retirement plans are easy in form of incorporated companies. And the next one is disadvantages of incorporation of companies. Here the disadvantages of incorporations are heavy paperwork is needed, because as the incorporated company need to submit their financial statements to the banks or the shareholders or the public in the form of newspapers or the annual reports. There will be heavy paperwork needed for the incorporated companies. The next one is professional fees would be high, because as the financial statements is related to the auditing and the auditor's fees will be very high, so the professional fees would be very high in the form of documentation or the auditing. And the liability protection is not guaranteed. For incorporated companies, the liability protection is not guaranteed. And the next one is forms of business organizations. There are various forms of business organizations or business entities in India, which are explained as below. First one is private limited company. A private limited company can be called as, or the following features can be discussed as being a private company. That means it should have a minimum of two directors and the maximum of 50 members. There should not be any partners of above 50 members in private limited company, and it does not accept any share capital from the public, and it will be paid a minimum capital of, it will be starting with the minimal capital of 1 lakh or such a higher amount which may be prescribed from time to time. It restricts the right of the shareholders to transfer their shares between these 50 members. And the next one is private limited company. It has a minimum of 7 members and maximum of no limit, because it allows the general public to subscribe its shares. It will be started with the minimum paid up capital of 5 lakhs or such higher as may be prescribed from time to time. It allows the shareholders to transfer their shares. And the next one is unlimited company. Unlimited company is a form of business organization under which the liability of all its members is unlimited. The personal assets of the members can be used to settle the debts. It can at any time re-register as limited company under section 32 of the Companies Act. And the next one is sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship is a form of business entity where a single individual handles the entire business organization. He is the sole recipient for all profits and bearing of all losses. There is no separate law that governs sole proprietorship. The next form of business organization is joint Hindu family. Joint Hindu family is a form of business organization wherein the member of the family can only own the manage the business. It is governed by the Hindu law. And the next one is partnership. Is one of the form of business organization. Partnership is the relation between two persons or many other persons who have agreed to share the profits of the business carried on by all or any one of them acting for all. It is governed by the Indian Partnership Act 1932. And the next one form of business is cooperatives. Cooperatives is a form of voluntary organizations wherein the member work together for promotion of the interests of its members. There is no restriction to the entry or exit of any member. It is governed by Cooperatives Act 1912. And the next and the last one is limited liability partnership. It is also mentioned as LLP. Under LLP, the liability of at least one member is unlimited, whereas rest all the other members have limited liability. Limited to the extent of their contribution in the LLP. Unlike general partnership, this kind of partnership does not get terminated by the death or insolvency of the limited partners. It is governed by Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008. And the next topic is role of entrepreneurship in economic development, and his duties can be discussed as below. The first role of entrepreneurship in economic development is employment opportunities. That means he creates the employment by starting his own business. Entrepreneurs employ labor for managing their business activities and provide employment opportunities to a large number of people. They remove the unemployment problem for some extent. And the second role of entrepreneurship in economic development is balanced regional development. Government promotes decentralized development of industries, as most of the incentives are granted for establishing industries in backward and rural areas. Thus, the entrepreneurs avail the benefits established by the government to establish industries in backward and rural areas and help in balanced regional development. They remove regional disparities and bring balanced regional development, and they also help to reduce the problem of slums, sanitation and pollution in cities by providing employment and income in people living in the rural areas. This way he helps in balanced regional development. And the next one is mobilization of local resources. Entrepreneurs help to mobilize and utilize the local resources like small savings and talented and relatives or friends which might otherwise remain idle and unutilized. Thus they help in effective utilization of these local resources or unutilized resources. And the next one is optimization of capital. Entrepreneurs aim to get quick return on investment. They act as a stabilizing force by providing high output capital ratio as well as high employment capital ratio. Thus he helps in optimization of capital. The next one is promotion of exports. Entrepreneurs helps in reducing the pressure on countries' balance of payments and helps in exporting their goods. They earn valuable foreign exchange through exports. And the next one is consumer demands. Entrepreneurs produce a wide range of products required by consumers. They meet the demand of the consumers without creating a shortage of goods. And the next role of entrepreneur is social advantage. Entrepreneurs help in the development of society by providing employment to the people and help in living them independently. They are in distributing in the national income in form of employment and effective and equitable manner among the various participants of the society. And the next one is increase per capita income. Entrepreneurs help to increase the per capita income of the country in various ways and facilitate the development of backward areas and weaker sections of the society by establishing the businesses and creating the employment and giving them their salaries. And the next one is capital formation. A country can attain economic development only when there is more amount of investment and production. Entrepreneurs help in channelizing their savings and savings of the public to productive sources by establishing enterprises. They promote capital formation by channelizing the savings of public to productive resources. And the next one is growth of capital market. Entrepreneurs raise money from running their business through shares and debentures. Trading of shares and debentures by the public with the help of financial service sector leads the capital market growth. And the next one is growth of infrastructure. The infrastructure development of any country depends on the economic development of a country, and entrepreneurs, by establishing their enterprises in rural and backward areas, influence the government to develop the infrastructure in those areas and helps in growth of infrastructure. Next one is development of trader. Entrepreneurs play an important role in the promotion of domestic trade and foreign trade. They avail assistance from various financial institutions in the form of cash credit or trade credit, overdraft, short-term loans, secured loans and unsecured loans, and lead to the development of the trade in the country. Next one is economic integration. Entrepreneurs reduces the concentration of power in a few hands by creating employment opportunities and through equal distribution of income. Entrepreneurs promote economic integration in the country by adopting certain economic policies and laws framed by the government. They help in removing the disparity between the rich and the poor by adopting the rules and regulations framed by the government for effective formulation of business in the country, and thus he protects the economic integration. And the last one is inflow of foreign capital. Entrepreneurs help to attract funds from individuals and institutions residing in foreign countries for their businesses, thus helps in increasing the inflow of foreign capital. And the next and the last topic of the first unit is startups. Here startups means an entity incorporated or registered in company. Many of us think that an individual starts his own business is a startups nowadays, but there is a certain criteria to be mentioned that organization as a startup. We can discuss as not prior to the 7 years, however for biotechnology startups not prior to the 10 years. It means an organization should be have a prior organization activities of 7 years, but in case of biotechnologies it should be at least of 10 years, because the biotechnology is related to the research and development. It takes a long time to succeed of any organizations like in the field of startups, and it should be have an annual turnover not exceeding the 25 crores in any preceding financial year. And the next one is working towards innovation, development or improvement of products or processes or services. It should be working towards the innovation, development, and but not repeating the same product or service in the society, or if it is a scalable business model with a high potential of employment generation or wealth creation, or it should be a very high model for employment creation and wealth creation, and that means large number of employment creation are treated as startups. Here the startups can be provided also that an entity shall seize the startup with the turnover of 25 crores which should be completed 7 years. In case of biotechnologies it should be completed of 10 years from the date of registration or incorporation. Further, that a startup shall be eligible for tax benefits only after it has obtained certificate from the interministerial board set up for such purposes. Okay, the various benefits of the startups provided by the governments are: the first one is simple process. Government of India has launched a mobile app and a website for easy registration for startups. Anyone interested in setting up a startup can fill up a simple form on the website and upload certain documents. The entire process is completely online. We need not get onto the offices or registration office or incorporation offices for getting the registration of startups. And the next one is reduction in costs. The government always provides list of facilitators of patents and trademarks. They will provide high quality intellectual property rights services, including fast examination of patents at low fees. That way, the government provides the benefit in the form of reduction of fees for for patents and trademarks for the entrepreneurs or the startups. Here, the government will bear all the fees for the startups, and they will help in reducing up to 80% of their patents or trademarks rights. And the next one is easy access to funds. In the budget, a 10,000 crore rupees fund is set up by the government to provide funds to the startups as venture capitalists from the side of government. The startups can utilize these funds to develop their businesses. The government is also giving guarantee to the lenders to encourage banks and other financial institutions for providing venture capitals. The next one is tax holidays for 3 years. Startups will be exempted from income tax for 3 years proved they get a certification from interministerial boards that are called as IMB. The next one is apply for tenders. It is the one of the benefit provided by the government for the startups. Startups can apply for government tenders. They are exempted from the prior experience tender or the experience organization criteria eligible for the normal companies answering to government tenders. Next one is R&D facilities, research and development facilities. 7 new research parks have been started or set up to provide facilities to startup in the R&D sector by the government of India. And the next benefit is no time consuming compliances. Various compliances have been simplified for startups to save time and money. Startups shall be allowed to self-certify compliances through startup mobile app with 9 labor and 3 environment laws. There will be no many compliances. That means no time consuming compliances, because only 3 environmental laws and 9 labor laws are required to be accepted by the government to who are having the startups. Tax savings for investors. People investing these capital gains in the venture funds set up the government will get exemption from capital gains. This will help startup to attract more investors. The next one is choose your investors. After this plan, the startups will have an option to choose between the venture capitalists, giving them the liberty to choose their investors. And the next eligibility or the benefit given by this easy exit. In case of exit, a startup can close its business within 90 days from the date of application of or the commencement of work. The next one is the last benefit is meet other entrepreneurs. Government will organize or government has proposed to hold 2 startup festivals annually, both nationally and internationally, to enable various stakeholders of a startup to meet. This will provide huge network opportunities for startups. These are the various benefits from the government for startups. By this video, we have completed the first unit, entrepreneurship. In the previous video, we have discussed about the characteristics of entrepreneurship, definition and introduction, various classifications of entrepreneurs, and the definition of entrepreneur, characteristics of entrepreneur, and the various types of entrepreneurs. In this video, we have discussed about the various forms of business organizations and incorporation of business, its advantages and disadvantages, and the responsibilities of the entrepreneurship in economic or social development. And the last one is startups and the various benefits provided by the government to the startups in India. Thank you.